Andy Austin here with the next chapter review from The Rainbow Machine, Tales from a Neurolinguist's Journal by Andrew T. Austin. This is the Painting the Dog chapter. It's page and a half, nearly 2 pages. This was actually going to be the title of the book originally. This was our working title for the book. And then in conversations with Steve Andreas, we decided The Rainbow Machine was probably better than Painting the Dog, because people might think it's an animal abuse book or something weird. And the title that actually came from a hypnotic regression I did with somebody back to his happiest ever memory. And all the things happened in his life, of course, he goes back to the simple things, as many of us do, which was his memory of being 6 and painting the dog, quite literally. Apparently his mother had to then shave the dog in order to get all the paint off. So happy times. The main thing in these pages is about the work that I did when I was first starting out, which was getting direct feedback from the clients that I was seeing. By clients, these were volunteers. When I very first started training as a hypnotherapist, before I really trained in anything else, and I had no idea what I was doing, when I discovered that you could actually go and learn hypnosis, that was a revelation to me. I didn't know there were courses in such things. I was completely naive to all of that stuff at the time. And I saw an advert in a magazine, I think it was. And it was Learn Hypnotherapy, Ericksonian Hypnotherapy at the Royal Masonic Hospital. That's what got my attention. And it was with British Hypnosis Research. Great name, I thought. And it was Stephen Brooks who was running the Ericksonian hypnotherapy training. And it ran for nearly a year. Absolutely superb training. But I'd never heard of Erickson. I thought, honestly, I was about halfway into the course, I discovered it was not Erik Erikson, the psychologist, but Milton Erickson. Who's he? Never heard of him. And then I started to really look further into the subject matter that I was learning. But I discovered it was something I could do and do well. And that was also a bit of a revelation to me, because up until then, I might have had a reasonably good IQ, but I wasn't very good at much. And I discovered something that I was particularly good at. And so that was me now. That was me done for my future career path. When I was very first starting, because I was naive, I had the naivety of youth, and I didn't know what it was I couldn't do, what I was supposed to do and not supposed to do. I broke all the rules rather than following what everyone else does. And this is something I urge any practitioner of any of the therapeutic or coaching arts or disciplines to actually follow that example as well. Do some of the things that I did. Now, I was working in a very large teaching hospital, so I had ready access to a very large number of people by putting posters up around the hospital on the various notice boards that are everywhere in hospitals, including on the inside of toilet doors as well. The reason you put them on the inside of the toilet doors, the cleaners never see them, because when they go into the cubicles, the door is open, and they can't see that. So they stay up there for quite a long time. They get defaced as well, so you have to change them on a regular basis. It was easy for me to recruit volunteers, and I would literally just put up a poster saying, I'm learning hypnosis, I'm a trainee hypnotherapist, I need volunteers to help me practice on. Your safety is not assured, or words to that effect. And people volunteer by the dozens. It was amazing. So I got to test out loads and loads of different things. This was one of the things that I did. In testing out getting comfortable with these procedures and ways of talking and language patterns, it was getting familiarity, but also enabled me to get direct feedback from the people who were volunteering, where they could give me advice, tell me what I needed to do differently. I'll just read you some of the feedback that I got back then. One person said, "You spoke too quickly." Somebody else said, "I needed to use the toilet, but I felt too embarrassed to say anything, which is why I couldn't concentrate." "I thought you were too young to be a decent hypnotist." Okay, I can't do anything about that. "I expected an old man with a beard and a limp." Can't do anything about that either. "You sounded too much like a salesman." Now that one I didn't understand at the time until I invested in a video camera and I started filming myself working with other people. And I knew on the first time I watched a session, and this was with a client, I saw myself and I realized I wasn't doing therapy. I was selling them the idea of change. I wasn't doing change. And I was horrified at what I saw on the video. And so that then made sense of what that person had told me all that time before. What else we got? Oh, I can't turn the page. Oh yeah, and the other one's you weren't wearing any shoes. And I thought, okay, you've got to dress the part if you're going to do these things. So always make sure you look in the way that the client may well expect. There's quite a common thing for people to dress down, and I've done this quite a lot actually, depending on what effect I'm going for, to go for the jeans and t-shirt look, because they're working from home or the home office, and they want to be laid back and relaxed. They don't want to take on a formal thing. But of course, some people are going to expect that, and so when they don't get it, it can jar for them. But the other stuff is, if you had the ideal hypnotist, hypnotherapist, what do you want? What actually is it you want to have as a result of all the therapy? And it's reduced down to 4 commonalities. And this is me nominalizing the general responses into these 4 things. To be happier, to be more popular, have more friends, all that kind of stuff, to have more money, and to have better and more frequent sex, better relationships, and all the things with that as well. They were pretty much what people want out of life, it seemed. Here's what I've realized as I've got older and I've got more experience, more knowledge, more everything in terms of therapy work. Too many coaches and therapists massively overcomplicate both what they're doing, what they are selling to their clients, the self-aggrandizement that they're making for themselves. And this seems to go with the business. Look at people's websites, their YouTube videos, where they refer to themselves as a master coach, a master trainer, and they list off all of their pseudo qualifications and memberships of pseudo organizations. Great word for you, by the way. Granfalloon. Look it up. There's so much of grandfalloonery that goes on. It is amazing. Look it up. It will give you a little insight into what actually goes on with the business of therapy. It's all about the money and how important I can be in me having my life, as opposed to actually what does this paying client need and want from the services that they're buying into. And there is so much conditional regard that is given and created by coaches and therapists. Don't overcomplicate stuff. Often people actually want the simplest things. And a lot of the therapeutic procedures and hypnotic procedures, hypnotherapy inductions, that kind of stuff, can actually be far, far simpler than people expect. We learn all these complicated models and patterns and language patterns and all these kinds of things. And that's great. It's good to learn all that stuff. But we don't need to employ all of that because that's the script that we follow. We employ the bit that is required to achieve what it is this particular paying client is needing and wanting from us, as opposed to giving them the full repertoire of everything that's on offer. So sometimes we can actually reduce the length of a session down remarkably so, because all the other stuff is ancillary to what the client wants and needs, but it's pertinent to what I, the coach and therapist, want to deliver in order to justify my self-aggrandizement, entitlements, and all that kind of stuff as well. So that's really what this chapter is. There's a conversation I had with somebody a few days ago. I thought I just want to tag into this particular video, which is essentially, okay, so what you did back then, you were working at the hospital, blah, blah, blah. If you were starting out now, if you had to start out afresh, knowing what you know now, what would you do? And I thought it's quite a good question. And I thought I'll share that in this video. One of the things I would do is would make sure I don't put up 6-step videos, my proven system that I want to share with you today, because they're always sharing something and sharing this and sharing that. Every financial freedom guru, all those people telling you how to do drop shipping and stuff like that, always sharing things. Every NLP on their videos are always sharing things. Every life coach is always sharing things. They're all sharing. Talk like a normal human being. That's one thing I would recommend you do. Don't start mimicking the lexicon of the peer group that you are now attaching yourself to, because they may not be as successful and as effective as they pretend to be. There's so much pretense that goes on. It is mind-blowing. And also the expectation set of therapists, they massively overestimate their effectiveness. So the first thing is keep it absolutely realistic and talk normally. Very important. But what would I actually do for business promotion? It would be really simple. I would put together a training experience in something very, very simple. It would take 1 hour. It would be 40 minutes in terms of the teaching and allow for 10 minutes Q&A and then 10 minutes for people arriving and leaving the room. and I would go to teaching hospitals, and I would offer a 1-hour session. In teaching hospitals, something happens. A lot of staff, especially nurses, in order to qualify in post-registration courses, have to teach a particular module. Now, in order for them to teach a particular module, they have to have people attend. So staff get sent to attend these courses, or these little teachings. And sometimes the teachings are 20 minutes, sometimes they'll be an hour, sometimes a little bit longer, but they always occur within the hour to allow people to migrate across the hospital, to arrive, do the thing, and get back again within a 1-hour time frame. Also, in order to qualify for some post-registration courses, you have to attend so many modules and particular things. So teaching hospitals are hotbeds of interesting things happening every week. Now, here's something that will happen. So if I'm teaching on a particular day, I will have a room, and I may have slots scheduled for that, because not everyone's going to be able to fit in the room and all leave work to come for that one session. So I may well have a session at 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11:30, 1:30, 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock. And on some of those sessions, I may well have too many people turn up because they were available and they can't fit in the room they sent away. And on other sessions, it might just be one person or no people turn up. But essentially, I would put together a little teaching on how to remove needle phobia, blood injection phobia, that kind of stuff, and teach the staff how to do that very, very quickly if they have somebody who has a needle or blood injection phobia. There would be an information pack. There would be key rings and a pen, a few little giveaways. I'd probably have some white label mints branded up with my contact details on. Give those out. People always love the freebies to take away with them. Maybe I'd have some posters printed up too with the procedures on how to follow, so they can take that back to the office where they work and stick it up in the office and so on. And I would simply make sure that every single member of staff in that hospital knows I'm doing that. On all of those notice boards, there would be my posters everywhere. I'd make sure those 8,000, 10,000 staff, and they're big hospitals, these teaching places, would all know who I am and where I am. That would get me enough work to get started. It would also give me a platform by which I could recruit people in. Now, bear in mind, if I'm quite new to stuff, I could recruit in volunteers to practice on. And most of these people will be clinicians or trainee clinicians who also have lots of additional knowledge. Now, here's the stuff about making yourself known to trainee clinicians. Trainee clinicians go on to be clinicians. And if you've built a good relationship with them early on and you have benefited them and they like you, guess what happens later on? You now have a network of clinicians that you now know. Useful for referrals, useful for gaining knowledge, useful for accessing research. In fact, it's been incredibly useful to me all these years. I think that's what I would do. It's very simple. Now, I've been recommending this in training groups for years. No one ever does it. What they do is they come up immediately with the objection, yes, well, hospital staff and medical staff and doctors, nurses, they're very closed-minded to this sort of thing. Really? Or is that just the excuse? Because you know what? I never found that at all. I have never found hospital staff, nurses, doctors across the board to be closed-minded to alternative therapies, things like hypnosis and NLP. Never. I ran my NLP group, hypnosis group, at Southampton General Hospital over a number of years. And you know what? Never a problem. It generated lots of interest. My work generated lots of interest to people. I've never found the objections that people reflexively tell me. It's because they themselves are afraid. They're the ones who are closed-minded, and they don't actually want to take that personal risk of exposing their amateur hour level stuff. Let's face it, NLP, hypnotherapy, counselling is amateur hour compared to brain surgery, cardiac surgery, elderly care, outpatients. All of those things are run by experts with extensive real-world evidence-based training. Don't be afraid to go and actually approach those people with your skill set, because those skill sets can actually dovetail together very nicely and have reciprocal stuff. I would urge people to be a lot more clinical in their approach. Learn how medical staff, hospital staff, and people in the community communicate. What's the lexicon? How do they communicate? Start to talk more like them in tried and tested orthodox system than the fringe people telling you how you can have a 6-figure income by doing my 10-day course in whatever it is, coaching, financial freedom, NLP, hypnotherapy, whatever it is, where you're guaranteed a new career. Really? So why are they teaching it then rather than making the 6 figures from seeing those clients themselves? These are some of the things I would be considering. So I would do exactly what I did before, but in a slightly more refined way. I would work within the medical system rather than in the fringes of the coaching industry. As always, click that like button. Do please leave any questions or comments in the comment section below. There's a join button, and there are more and more videos going up in the members only section. It's the exclusive content where I do much more teaching in terms of, at the moment, Ericksonian therapy, not so much the inductions, but actually what are you doing with the therapeutic procedures, and understanding psychotic communication. They're the 2 themes at the moment, but once I've exhausted those, there'll be other things as well, depending on what the membership actually wants from me. So do please consider that. It's only $1.99 a month. That's a bargain. You can cancel at any time, but you wouldn't want to do that because it's brilliant. Click those buttons. You know what to do.